Because I'm an ESFP, I enjoy mooning nuns. Okay, no. Um, Type is not the reason you do something. Type is a way to label your natural preferences. So often you hear people say things like, well, because I'm an ENFP, I enjoy, spouting random ideas that pop into my head. And they've got that backwards. And that's, it leads to people kind of stereotyping because they look at it as being, um, and it leads to stereotyping, at least to people being hostile towards the idea of typology because they look at it as, oh, it's putting you in a box, it's limiting you because they're looking at it as, you're saying that because I have this label, that means that I'm locked into certain behaviors, certain occupations, or certain hobbies, or things like that. And that's not what it's about. It's about when you observe people's natural behavior and natural preferences, you see certain patterns emerge, and those patterns can be labeled in a way that recognizes that. But um, it's not a prescription or an outline or a prediction of behavior, I'll put it that way. Now, you can sometimes predict certain behaviors based on that, obviously, because you're going off the previous pattern, but it's not something where you are limiting yourself by acknowledging this. And I'm not saying this to try to lecture other people, because I also had to learn that and used to be hostile towards the idea for that very reason. And I think this is probably very natural for a lot of people, but especially for SP types. I think because we are, I believe, the most sort of individualist and most freedom seeking, where we don't really want anyone to tell us, you fit in this category or this box or whatever, because that's like a limit to our freedom. You'd be like, don't tell me I'm that thing, man. I'm some other thing. You never seen what I can be, man. Just watch me work. That's the instinct we have, is to do our own thing, and we want to believe that what our own thing is this completely original thing that no one can possibly categorize. Obviously, the reality is that's not entirely true, and I think David Kersey was pretty accurate in his book Brains and Careers when he talked about the real number one thing that artisans have the ability to do is take something that exists already and put our own spin on it and turn it into something new that's sort of a reformation of the old. And in music, of course, you have remixes. That's just one example, but we kind of remix all kinds of stuff. It doesn't have to be music. And obviously, the tendency is the SFPs tend to remix things to entertain people, and the STPs tend to remix things to operate, in another way, to either improve the system or the product itself, whatever that is. And if you got a better description of that, if you're an STP or some well, and you know a better way of putting that than I do, feel free to comment and let me know that, because I've never completely come up with a great way of putting that myself in terms of that sort of subtle difference and what the purpose of that is. But that's the main thing I wanted to get across, is that typology is a way to categorize people, but it's a way to categorize people by what their preferences already are, the pattern of behavior that comes from those preferences. It's not sort of an excuse or a crutch to behave in a certain way, or something that locks you into a certain behavior. So it's not like you can say, well, I wanted to be an architect, but I'm an ESFJ, therefore I've got to be a caretaker of some kind. No, I mean, ESFJs tend to gravitate towards roles in life that are more the caretaker or provider of some kind, or sort of a social networking type of thing. But that doesn't mean that your occupation or your entire life has to be that. It just means that your natural instinct is, in the course of your daily life, you're going to sort of gravitate towards things that use that instinct because it's your natural instinct. And if you are an ESFJ architect, you may have to work harder to be as good at that as, say an INTP might be, because your instincts don't necessarily immediately match up with that role. So that was another point, that Kersey made in Brains and Careers, is very much about, it's sort of a tier of, things that the closer something is to your instinct, the easier it is to repeatedly practice it, because you take that natural instinct and you build on it, doing it over and over again. And it doesn't limit you. It just means that you may have to work harder than someone who is more naturally inclined to a particular thing. So the next time you hear somebody say, well, I was late because I'm an ESFP, you tell that sucker that ain't the truth. You say you're late because you're late. And, the fact that you're an ESFP is just, well, it's because you're late. Yeah, I'm late to everything ever, so sorry about that. Anyway, if you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Like this video and share it with all of your wonderful friends who blame their type for all of their bad behavior. And see you next time.